there are going to be people that take a couple of minutes to get to the call, but we're going to go ahead and start since we have a short time together today. I'm going to introduce Jessica Hubbard. She's one of our coaches here at Ops Boss Coaching, and she is going to be leading our Ops Boss book blink today. So Jessica, I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys for joining. And for those that were signed up for last week, thank you for your patience on that with my flights being canceled. So welcome to Book Blink. And I think Brooke might have frozen, but we'll keep going. So Christy asked me what book that I would really like to talk about here. And I had a couple items, and then I really thought about what books changed kind of a real estate perspective for me and how we grew the team. So the top book that I came up with for that was Giftology. I first came across this book about 7 years ago, and it's a relatively easy read. So that's nice. I like easy read books too. And it's by John Rulin. And it completely changed the way that we decided to gift and love on people. And so let me get into a couple of it. So the book goes through essentially the power of giving. Why give? The subtitle says the art and science of using gifts to cut through the noise, increase referrals, and strengthen client retention. So the first part is all about the power of giving. The second part is a relationship roadmap, why you should give to certain people, what you should not give to other people. Sounds bad, but and then who else you can give to. And then the third section is more gifting guidelines. What gifts should you give? What should you stay away from? Who should, even within the gifting guidelines, who should you give them to and who should you not give them to? Some of my biggest, so when I read the book, we were starting up a group for educators, and we were looking at it as you know, how can we give back to this group of educators? And the book opened up my eyes to giving back on a more personal level versus just making a blanket thing to give everybody. So one of my takeaways from the book was that a lot of times, especially in the real estate world and other businesses too, we tend to give promotion items. I'm actually playing with one right now, which is a chip clip from the bank. So that's kind of one of the things we tend to do. We do that, we do pens, we do notebooks, we do hats and t-shirts and polos and all of that stuff. But is that truly a gift? When you get an item like that, do you look at that and say, this is amazing. They gave me a chip clip. This is, I'm going to use this. I'm going to tell my friends about it. I'm going to, share it with Brooke, all of this stuff. Or are you like, oh yeah, that's good. I could use another chip clip. What do you want that person to feel? The majority of people are not going to bring you into their inner circle. They're not going to share you with other people and tell about you or tell about your company via the promotional items that we send. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, but it's just not going to have the same impact. So what if instead of sending what he talks about in the book is that if instead of sending the promotional items, so for example, Cutco knives are very popular in real estate too. And the author of the book was actually one of the top sales people within Cutco. So he mentions Cutco quite often. But it's very common for real estate agents to give Cutco knives with our information on the knife. Very rarely do we put the client's information on the knife. Well, the impact to the client of getting those knives with their, their names engraved on it, maybe their anniversary date, if they just got married and that's the gift you're giving them or something like that. The impact of that and how far those little pieces can go is much further than the promotional items that we give. So that was one of my takeaways in reading the book. One of the others was he used the term best in class within a budget. So he has some very high level clients, and he talks about going to Brooks Brothers and buying $7,000 worth of stuff and different things like that. But he does also talk about using it within the budget that you actually have. So if for example, let's say you have a $50 budget for a client. If would it be more impactful to give them a $50 gift card or a $50 watch or something like that? Or would you create the wow factor, and would you create the moment of that just impressive, like create the impression on the person if you took that $50 and bought something that was best in class for whatever that item was? For example, like a Stanley mug or a Yeti mug or something, and buy the top of the line $50 Yeti mug, if that's what it is, that's going to have more of an impression on somebody, especially if you were able to get their name engraved on it or something like that, versus giving them a $50 gift card. Or a $50 lower end item. He uses the example of a business owner who bought everybody Timex watches, maybe. I'm probably messing that up. And how that money but it was going to these executives who are used to Rolexes and top of the line stuff. So that gift even though there was a decent amount of money spent on that gift, it didn't make as much of an impact. Buying somebody a handmade leather golf piece to hold different golf supplies for $200 is a much better gift and makes a much more leaves more of an impression on that person than by spending $200 on a golf club. So that really started changing how we looked at what we give and why we give and how we give. And then he also talks about the relationships of where you give gifts. My husband has told me for years that his dad has always told him, his dad is a retired school teacher, has always told him that you pay attention and you love on the people who hold the keys and who feed. And those are often in a school building, those are the people who are often forgotten quite a lot. It does, I mean, if you think about it in different roles in real estate, who's the gatekeeper? The gatekeeper is not the team leader. The gatekeeper is not, the other agent. The gatekeeper is often the director of ops, the EA, the TC sometimes. So when you are approaching somebody who is a client who's in business, keep in mind their staff. Don't just love on and send gifts to, the person that you're trying to get in touch with or get a hold of, but also send those to the people that keep the gates. Along with that also includes spouses. Maybe you have a client who is, he's not in real estate, so some of these scenarios didn't quite work, but I used him in the same way. But where can you love on somebody else to take something off of somebody else's plate? And yeah, sometimes he did say to be careful on not including, unless you have a very good relationship, that kids come later. Sometimes it can get a little weird to start sending somebody's kids gifts if you do not have a decent relationship. So just a note there. He also, which I thought was very interesting, and we have built some of this into our own team, is there is also a roadmap in the book for creating gifts and these relationships within teams. How are teams and businesses loving on their own people? How are they gifting their own people? You know, his company gifts every other week house cleaning to everybody on their staff. What that does, and you know, they may have somebody who's working for them that doesn't necessarily clean. Maybe the other partner, you know, their significant other cleans, but that takes a load off that person, and in turn, it creates an environment that is just that person is taken care of. So there is I say a roadmap. There's a section in the book about how do you build the same thought and process within teams and businesses as well, which I love that there was that takeaway in it. One of the other things that really stuck out with me was that the gifts that you give should align with your core values. If they do not fit within your core values, you shouldn't be giving them. And honestly, it's going to be harder to figure out what those gifts are if they don't align with you naturally. That being said, there's also some warnings in there about making sure that what you are giving to create the best magical moment for the person, the gift that you're giving should be something that is for them, not something you like and that you're just giving them to the person. You know, if I was going to give Brooke something, I would look into what she actually, you know, what hobbies she has, and, you know, what travel accessories she needs and things like that. I wouldn't look at it and say, oh, I like to sew, so I'm going to get Brooke a sewing kit. Brooke needs to learn to sew. No, that's not going to create the most magical moment with Brooke unless I just happen to hit upon something that we both share an interest in. So I listened to the book again right before in the past couple of weeks to kind of prepare for this and really trigger some of the stuff that I remember the first couple of times around, because I've read it, I've listened to it a couple of times. And it was interesting listening to it again in its entirety, because in the past several years since I've read it, I have found that it's one of those books that you can go back, and I find myself not listening to the whole thing, but skipping through a chapter and just picking a spot and listening to that section. Throughout the whole entire book, there are so many good little pieces of information that sometimes, I don't know about you guys, and I read a lot during a year. I read and listen to close to 100 books throughout a year. And sometimes I get to a point in a book that I'm like, okay, I've listened to 3 hours of it. I'm kind of done with this book. I feel like I want to go listen to another book or do something else. This is one of those books that you can pretty much pick up, thumb through it if you have the hard copy, thumb through it, pick a spot, go back to that spot, just listen to that or read that little spot, and just do that a little bit throughout, you know, the year, just for a refresh too. And there is so much good information just at all points. And so that's why I said it was interesting why I went back through it and just listened to the whole entire thing as a whole, because I hadn't done that in years. I had literally gone back and listened to 30 minutes or whatnot at a time. But there are lots of good pickups from it. In the book, he will also give details on bonus information of where you can go on his website and find extra information about what not to gift, things like food and alcohol, different types of alcohol, unless you know that person specifically. But there's a lot of things that shouldn't be just like kind of blanket, you know, items that you give to people. Holidays that you should not gift around. Everybody is going to gifting around Christmas or Thanksgiving, even a birthday, is a very common time to gift. And oddly, people tend to gift food around those holidays, which everybody's gifting food, everybody's eating, you don't know. So the magical moment is not there as much as if you gifted something randomly throughout the year. Even if you had a system for it where it seems random to them, but it's not random to you, that's perfectly fine as well. But his bonus material on the website has a ton of information on it's pulled out of the book, but it's the kind of short cliff note versions of, here are the best times to do this. Here are the things to stay away from. And I highly recommend using that as supplementary information to the book. So kind of my short version of it. Does anybody have any questions? No. Okay. Awesome. Well, I hope you pick up the book. And again, if you just pick it up to just read a little bit of it or a certain chapter, or the chapters are very much broken down into smaller tidbit bites. I think there's like 40 chapters or something like that. So even if you just picked it up to read a chapter here or there, there is information throughout the whole thing. You will not regret even just picking it up for that amount. So, okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jessica. Thank you everyone for coming today. And if you enjoyed this, let us know. Hopefully we can do some more of them. We did have one quick question, Jess, if you have a second.
I just
in the chat, you've got it.
Yes. So what are some examples of, I think I'm reading the right one, of gifts that you have given that aren't promotional? Is that it? Yeah. So, okay, let me, we gift, depending on the type of person, again, this isn't for everybody, but we do a lot of Norwex type stuff. Again, that goes back to that best in class on a budget thing. We could give them, some cleaning supplies or something like that, or we could give them a lot of our people are going green and they don't want to use chemicals and stuff like that. So we create a basket and stuff for them with some of those items. Other things have been date nights that we've put together specifically for them. We've planned everything, we've put it together, we send them directly on it. Sometimes they don't know what they're doing. Sometimes they might, like they've picked a restaurant or something like that, but, and they'll give us a category, do they want a fun one? Do they want a romantic one? Something like that. And so we've, curated some of those events or those kind of gifts for them. We've done something similar for families that we know that have kids, and so they've been kid-friendly versions of that. I'm trying to think of one that we've used recently that is a little bit more of a little bit more to everybody, because he does talk about how you can still make things unique while scaling them. So there is that section in there as well. It doesn't have to be necessarily this for every single, or you have to come up with a new thing for every single person. So we have done family game night baskets within our educator group. One of the biggest things that we do in that way is our goal with which we have now turned into a 501c3. So it is now a nonprofit. But there are a lot of educational nonprofits out there that love on the kids and they take care of the kids. We have some great backpack programs and all sorts of things. But we, especially locally, had never seen anything that actually gives back to the teachers themselves as like who they are outside the classroom. And we believe in when we take care of the educator outside of the classroom, it takes care of them, like it helps from burnout in the classroom. So some of the things that we do are through the schools themselves. Like, so for example, we started looking into how do we love on a lot of people at one time, but give them something that they're not used to, and make a special treat moment for them. We know a lot of places give food, and this is one that we have given food. So I will caveat this to say, he says, don't give food. We have given food. But a lot of times they're like donuts and cookies and stuff like that. So we had a tropical smoothie that started in town about 5 years ago. And so we started taking smoothies to all the schools as an afternoon treat because they're healthier, they're pick-me-ups. We do it right before, a lot of times we do it right before parent-teacher conferences. They're running like crazy. For them just to have that little moment of somebody loves you and is giving this to you because they know it's going to be a crazy day and a crazy night. That has touched so many people. And we continually get thank you cards and notes and stuff written from them about, thank you for the smoothies. And they post on our Facebook group and stuff. And it's such a little thing. But because we thought about the timing and what they might need and all of that, it's so much better than the promotional gift. I don't see any more questions, but I'm willing to get some more if anybody has one.
Any other questions before we hop off? Or thoughts, things that you've done that have worked really well?
It's so interesting what happens when you just pay attention to the little things that clients say that they like, and then you get that for them as either a closing gift or a gift throughout the year somehow, or a referral.
So I will, we're still recording, but I'm gonna go grab a shirt real quick in the other room.
Yeah. We had a buyer's agent on our team who, if they said they had a cat or a dog, he would go get a new dog tag or for their cat too, if they had a cat, but with the new address on the back. So it would have their pet's name on the front with the new address of the house they just bought with us on the back. Yeah.
So kind of a dialed down, it's promotional, but not totally promotional. When I read this book, because my thought was, like everybody, we'll make t-shirts and we will give t-shirts away. And then I read this book and I was like, oh, no one wants a t-shirt that says Hubbard Realty Group across their chest. Like outside of anybody on the team, why would they want that t-shirt? So this is our fifth version of HRG t-shirts. And these things are worn all over the place. People tag us in texts or in Facebook posts. They text us, hey, I'm wearing your t-shirt today. It is ridiculous how much people wear these t-shirts. So I say they're semi-promotional because it does have our logo on the back. But this year's is Fierce. We have done Fearless. We have done Dream Big. And we have a couple others. But they always have our word for the year on the front and with the design. And then the back of it has a quote. And this one says, be yourself so fiercely that everyone else feels safe to be themselves too. And they're Bella canvas t-shirts. They're super soft and nice. And they're semi-promotional because they do have our logo at the bottom. But these, I can't tell you how many times we get tagged in these shirts. It's really ridiculous. But so that is a semi-promotional, but not totally promotional on that one.
That's awesome. What's the cost of a shirt?
We get them done locally. So if I can get things done locally, I would prefer to do that. So they just went up a little bit. They are $8 for extra small through large. No, yeah. And then extra large and up is like $10, I think. So not too bad. I mean, We have people who only, there's a guy on that I see his Facebook pages all the time, and he's on vacation every day. He has a different color of one of our shirts on, so it's getting posted all over. So 20, or he probably has 4 of them, $40 for him to advertise for us is not that bad. Agents are the ones communicating with clients. How do we get agents to give good gift suggestions? Okay. So we technically, if you're talking about closing gifts, maybe, we don't technically do closing gifts anymore. Missouri has weird rules, so we don't give closing gifts. However, we do give gifts throughout the year. We have a form for that, and we have a job form that people fill out. And when they go on our VIP list, they are, there's different packages that they can be curated from. We do the same thing with referrals. So do they want this type of thing? Do they want that? And then there's a spot for notes that kind of gives us more information if they need something other than the standard thing. Keeping in mind, I would be a little careful on that, because I believe in ops that's in their ball, that's in their court, that's their ball to hold. So you want to be careful on how much you give in that way, where you're not running around like crazy trying to come up with 60 different unique gifts, because agents decide that people need all sorts of stuff. Can I share that job form? I can't share that job form, unfortunately. It's tied into a lot of other stuff, because it's one that goes into 16 different systems, but it essentially gives who the client is, who the agent is, different option of gifts, notes, and then what future follow-up plan they need to be on. So delivery method of gifts depends on what we're giving, and depends on who we're giving it to. There are times that we mail, times that we drop by. Again, it kind of depends. If we mail something, I want that thing to be amazing in the mail. I do not personally like mail. I have this strange PTSD from mail. But I do like receiving good mail. So I remember one time after the very first Ops Boss Leadership Retreat, one of the sponsors was a company that curated gifting packages. And after that retreat, I just randomly got a water bottle in the mail in a box, and it was the cutest, I did not even expect this. And it had my name engraved on it. I definitely looked into that company, and I was not expecting it. And that was just, so if that is going to create the wow moment, that's how you should deliver it. If showing up on their door and putting it on, their doorknob or saying something to them, if that's going to further the execution of that gift, that's how it should be delivered. It is really about creating that moment. And if the team doesn't have the money, or if you don't have the money to do some of that, look into other options. It goes back to that best in class within the budget. How do you create that magic moment within your budget that you can? He does mention in there that some of the smallest things that you can do that people tend to forget is just write a note. If you can't do anything else, handwritten notes are huge, because people don't get them in the mail very often anymore. So do you have agents give them at all? Yes. Funny thing you asked that, though, because we have had a major fail forward on that. We had a system in place a couple years ago that it was an after closing gifting system, and we felt that we curated 5 different things in ways that it would really hit a lot of people and give them something that was really best in class and really interesting and cool and whatnot. Some of that stuff we could mail them, and we put them in, fantastic packaging. Which I do have if anybody wants to know about packaging, I will share that in the Be a Boss class, because there's an amazing shop on Etsy that you can get them relatively cheap and have boxes and stuff. But part of that was agent drop off. And the idea was that agents would drop them off, they would have a conversation, or they would text them afterwards and say, hey, I just left something at your house. I can't tell you how many bags we had sitting in our conference room because they didn't get dropped off. So my fail in that system, going back, and I'll make a plug for another Be a Boss or an Ops Boss class here, but systems are sexy. Steph says to make sure you have buy-in from whoever's going to use the system. And I did not have full buy-in on agents dropping them off. And even then I had buy-in to a certain extent. I didn't have full buy-in, I guess, is probably the issue. And I should have checked a little bit of it up front and maybe did it on a smaller scale, made sure that was happening, and then changed it to the next one. So we do have very good luck with agent drop off. If it is a one-time certain event, it's set up, everybody goes out and does it. And we make a day of it. We do definitely get agent buy-in and delivery there. I'm not seeing any other questions.
I think that was it on questions, and we want to be respectful of your time as well, Jessica. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming today, and thanks, Coach Jess, for sharing everything from Giftology. If you missed it, I dropped the link for the book in the chat, and I'll drop it again really quickly for you guys. And then she was talking about Ops Boss classes. If you want to check out any of our upcoming events, I'll also post that link for you too. So hope you all have a great day and a great rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.